Good Tuesday evening. Power 5 meteorologist Phil Sakel here in the Digital Weather Center here at News 5. And it's been a very eventful evening with a lot more snow squall warnings. And a lot of those warnings are still in place across our eastern communities. We have a few of those warnings now in place for at least Lake Geauga and parts of Ashtabula County through about 5:45. So another about 8 minutes before that does begin to expire. And those snow squall warnings do extend all the way south into Summit County as well as into parts of at least, let's see here, Worcester towards Dalton, even into Stark County. That snow squall warning continues late this afternoon, early this evening. Visibility certainly being the bigger concern right now. Let's take a live look at downtown Akron right now. If I can get my mouse to work here. There we go. So this is downtown Akron. Things are a little bit quieter, which is the good news, but certainly a decent squall dropped a little bit more accumulating snows for parts of the downtown Akron. So definitely a potential for some snow squalls, at least an inch or two with some of those at least snow squalls that are moving through northeast Ohio. So that is going to be the bigger concern for the next couple of hours across our eastern communities. So right now in parts of Geauga County, Chardon up towards Burton, a lot of visibility issues just south of Paynesville. The I-90 corridor along at least Lake County not looking too bad right now, but the further south you are into Geauga County, the potential for more of that snow to cause a bigger concern for the second half of the evening hours. So a lot of snow all the way from Chardon down to Burton Lake, 422 down towards Manaway into Ravenna, starting to see that snow squall moving a little bit further eastward. And it's going to be a little bit more time before a lot of this moves through. So between now and about, I'd say 6:15 at the very earliest, we'll see a little bit more improvements. But a little bit of that snow continues to bring a bit more concern, especially with some of that blowing and drifting snow late this evening. So temperatures, they've not really been great, along with the very cold conditions, lower and middle teens with those temps right now. And it's going to be a little bit colder still with some of these wind chill factors right now. So winds are beginning to pick back up. That's causing the bigger concern with a lot more of that snow squall activity. Look at these winds in Cleveland, 21 towards parts of Elyria, and a lot of that wind will usher in some of those lower visibilities with the snow squalls that are continuing to move through. But the wind chill still brutally cold, a couple degrees below zero for most of us late this evening, and numbers will continue to go down even more during the second half of the overnight tonight through the day tomorrow. But right now, visibility going to be the biggest concern with a lot of these snow squalls that are continuing to move through the eastern third of our viewing area, all the way from Ashtabula County, Lake Geauga, into parts of Summit and also into Stark County. Just a sec, got to talk to my director. What's up? Yep. Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Okay. So we're doing a double stream here. We're going from digital here in the digital studio. I'm also on live on News 5 at 5. So we're going to talk back and forth in between live hits on TV and also some streaming here online on Facebook and YouTube. So one of the great things about News 5 is we're able to bring you the latest on digital platforms along with our on-air signal, so we can bring you the most comprehensive weather coverage that we can. And we have a lot more of that snow squall continuing to move through in the next, I'd say, half hour, 45 minutes. This was pretty much due west of Cleveland just before the 5 o'clock hour started. So between about 4:45 and 5 o'clock, we noticed that squall moving into parts of western Ohio, and that continued to move a little bit further eastward. So between, I'd say, about an hour to 50 minutes, that squall moved through most of downtown Cleveland. Still some snow showers that linger across the I-80 corridor up towards Maple Heights, 271, and a little bit less in the way of squall-like snow continues to fall across parts of southern Cuyahoga County, but definitely some snow continues. So blowing and drifting snow has been the biggest concern for the last several hours, and that's still going to be a big concern this evening. So if you're traveling at all, the cold is going to be a big concern, and maybe the travel with some of these back roads especially could be a little bit more slick than others with some of this snow squall that's moving through over the last half hour, 45 minutes. So give yourself plenty of extra time if you're going to be traveling at all through the second half of this evening and beyond. So we have a little bit more of that squall kind of pushing through parts of southern, at least Greene towards North Canton into Newman, Canal Falls, Massillon, towards right around the Route 30 corridor is kind of the limits for that snow squall warning right now. So if you live north of Route 30 in Stark County, you're still under that snow squall warning for the foreseeable future. That goes to about 5:45, so another minute or two before that does at least expire for the moment. But as the squall moves further eastward, we're looking at that at least potential for some more snow. Inch, maybe an inch and a quarter, inch and a half, a possibility with the snow itself falling. But visibility issues, I think, will be the bigger concern for the second half of this evening. So right now in downtown Cleveland, a little bit better visibility right now, but certainly a decent amount of snow has fallen in the last half hour, 45 minutes, and that is definitely causing some concerns on those roadways. So let's take a look at this is I-76 and State Route 43. We did have an accident within the last couple of hours. Thankfully, that has at least cleared up, and the roadway is looking pretty good through parts of Portage County this evening. So that is the good news, but definitely some more issues with some blowing and drifting snow on parts of the roadways not out of the question this evening. And let's see here. We've also got a live look at 271 and 422. Notice the bridges and overpasses, kind of the first more susceptible potential of some at least slick spots. A little bit more of that coverage on some of those bridges and overpasses right now. And things are not looking the greatest on 271. Those roadways are a bit more covered this evening. So definitely causing some issues on the roadways. Give yourself plenty of extra time if you're going to be traveling right now. And a little bit more in the way of Arctic air continues to move back in with these temperatures beginning to fall throughout the second half of the evening. So a big cold front, yet another one pushing through the region during this evening. That's causing the bigger concern with some of these snow squalls late this evening. So that continues to push through. And you'll notice just a couple of warnings across parts of Northeast Ohio with those squalls. But outside of the at least snowbelt area right now, even into parts of the Route 30 corridor, there's not a lot of snow to worry about, but there is a lot of cold, and that's going to be the big concern for everybody here in Northeast Ohio. Again, during the overnight tonight, all those lighter blues, that is a cold weather advisory. And just to the south and west, we have that extreme cold warning again across parts of central Ohio. And that is not good news, especially with those wind chills between about 20 and even 30 below. Once again, in central Ohio, here a little closer to the News 5 viewing area, will potentially be about minus 15, maybe minus 20 at times throughout the second half of the overnight tonight through the wee hours of tomorrow morning. So there could be some more delays and or cancellations once again, especially with these wind chill factors being as bad as they potentially will be throughout the overnight tonight. So we have a lot more in the way of below zero wind chill factors on the horizon during the overnight tonight. This is another hour or so ahead, and we'll be talking, 10, 15, even close to 20 below by the time we go on for the 11 o'clock news tonight. So it's going to get a little worse before it does get better during the second half of the overnight tonight through the day tomorrow. The good news is things will be a little bit better by about 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Still some double digits below zero potentially, but not nearly as cold as it was earlier this morning, between about 20 and 25 below for some areas to begin this Tuesday morning. And numbers will slowly get back up into the single digits. I think still below zero, even into the afternoon tomorrow, with temps still struggling to hit those mid and upper teens for most areas to round out the day on Wednesday. So yeah, it's going to be a big cold day once again. But right now, the snow squalls are the bigger concern for our eastern communities, which actually all of those warnings have since dissipated, which is certainly some good news. Still a lot of snow causing some issues, especially with some of that at least snow blowing around, drifting. So travel could be a little bit more in the way of at least tricky, but we still have that snow squall warning until about 6:30 this evening for most of Ashtabula County. Right now, the central half of the county looks to be the worst of it for the second half of the evening hours, but not a lot of widespread coverage with those snow squalls right now. So that is definitely some good news. And these squalls are starting to at least dissipate. Got to go back to live TV right now. Yeah, Damon, we got a lot to talk about. We're online, StreamYard right now with our Facebook and YouTube accounts, as well as here live on News 5 at 5 o'clock. We have a lot of snow continuing to fall here in Northeast Ohio, but the squalls thankfully starting to go away. At least the snow squall warnings for most of this line actually expired over the last 4 or 5 minutes. We still have one warning now in through parts of Ashtabula County that goes to about 6:30 p.m. So those areas around the State Route 45 corridor up towards Chapel, roaming shores, Rome, New Lyme, and even into the eastern half around U.S. Route 11 could potentially see a little bit more visibility issue for the second half of this evening. That warning goes to about 6:30, as I mentioned. But outside of that, not a lot of at least a big concern right now for squalls, but there will be big concern again for a lot more of that cold. Let's take a look at our temperatures across Northeast Ohio this evening. And we are currently sitting at about 14 degrees here in downtown Cleveland, 14 around Akron, 12 in Canton, 13 in Ravenna. And yeah, it's going to get even colder when you factor in some of these winds, well over 15 to near 20 miles an hour. And that caused a lot of visibility issue here in Northeast Ohio for those squalls. Wind chill factors to about 1, if not a little bit below 0 around Ravenna. We're at 1 below in Menor, -2 in Medina, -2 towards Elyria. And those winds are going to cause things even colder still tonight. We have those cold weather advisories between about 7 p.m. tonight through about 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Not quite as cold as this morning, but yeah, definitely potentially about 15, maybe 20 below with those wind chills to begin tomorrow morning. So yeah, schools could be canceled once again for your middle part of the week, and wind chills continue to go down through the second half of this evening. They will get a little bit worse before they do get better once again, but thankfully things getting a little bit closer to 0 for the mid and late afternoon on Wednesday. But all in all, still need to bundle up. Extra layers, certainly a good idea. Hats, gloves, scarves, any exposed skin can certainly become frostbitten in the next several hours with these wind chill factors going down. And we talk in single digits with temps as early as about 8, 9 o'clock tonight. And more of that bitterly cold air will continue for the second half of the overnight through the majority of the day tomorrow. So overnight lows, I think a degree or 2 below 0, not out of the question. Once again, early tomorrow morning, that's causing the bigger concern for a lot of those wind chills behind that Arctic front. Again, those temperatures well below at least 15 degrees for most of Northeast Ohio, points north and west. And we're really going to struggle to warm at all with that big, at least area of high pressure building back in with more of that cold and Arctic air spilling back in for the second half of the overnight tonight. So over the next 5 to 7 days, temps will actually go down a little bit. We'll be talking some single-digit highs by Friday and lower and middle teens by Sunday and Monday. Back with more after this. All right, we are done with TV right now. Back to the StreamYard, and we're looking at, as I mentioned, those temperatures continue to drop, about single-digit highs for the day on Friday, hopefully back into the double digits by this weekend, but not seeing anything, and I mean anything, close to that freezing mark between now and the end of your next Tuesday. So it's just going to be brutally cold here in the area, even some below zeros with those temperatures as early as tonight, and then again on Thursday night, and maybe even into Saturday morning, potentially a few degrees below 0 with another Arctic front that'll start to move in, bringing a little bit more of that colder air for the day on Friday. But all in all, right now, it's just going to be the bitterly cold air, along with a little bit more in the way of some snow showers. So we still have that potential for a little bit more of a snow squall through parts of Ashtabula County. And that goes through about 6:30 this evening. And outside of that, still some snow showers for the at least, I'd say, I-80 corridor, even into 271 towards Boston, Richfield, Strongsville, even into Elyria, Amherst, towards the I-80 corridor in western parts of Lorain County. And all of this will be light to moderate, potentially some visibility issues with some of these snow showers, not necessarily squalls, as the warnings have pushed further eastward. So thankfully, parts of Portage County towards Stark into, I'd say, even Holmes County, a little bit more light to moderate snow, but nothing particularly squall-like as far as warnings outside of Ashtabula County for the second half of this evening. So that is definitely some good news there. But a lot of this, at least snow, continues to fall for the next few hours. So there will be potential for a little bit more light accumulation, an inch or two in a couple locations. So give yourself plenty of extra time if you're going to be traveling anywhere, and still a lot of light and fluffy snow from the last several days. And that's causing some issues with some of that blowing and drifting snow here in Northeast Ohio. So let's take a look at a few of the cameras, if we can pull that up for a second. Akron, not looking too bad. Here in parts of downtown Akron, still maybe a little bit more of that blowing and drifting snow from some of that snow that did begin to fall over the last half hour. So you can really tell those winds certainly very, very potent, and that will continue to be the case for the evening. So roadways may be clear for a few minutes, but some of that blowing and drifting snow could cause some issues for the evening hours. So if you are going to be at least starting to move in for the second half of your 6 o'clock hour, and let's take a look at right now in downtown Cleveland. The camera, you can definitely tell, is shaking a little bit with those stronger winds. Here in parts of northeast Ohio, winds are going to be in excess of 15 to 20 miles an hour. And right now, I-76 at State Route 43 looking pretty clear and quiet around Portage County. So that is definitely some good news. But all in all, those at least potential for some squalls are starting to diminish during the second half of this evening right now. So the only warning we have right now is Ashtabula County through about 6:30 this evening. A little bit more of that snow kind of staying just south of the shoreline of Ashtabula. So those areas inland, potentially looking at some stronger winds causing those concerns, but the radar not looking as potent as it was just a little while ago. So let's take it back about an hour, and all of that snow continued to push through. It is starting to weaken a little bit, which is some good news, but definitely some issues on the roadways for the end of this Tuesday. And then once we get past all of this snow, things are going to look a lot better, but still brutally cold for the end of this evening and through the overnight tonight. So temperatures are starting to fall already. We're looking at a lot of the area only back into the lower teens. We're currently sitting at 14 in Akron, 16 towards parts of Menor. We're at 14 in Lorain County towards Sandusky. We're at 14 this hour in Norwalk. So definitely a very, very cold, very brutally cold air mass still in place for the second half of this evening. So those temperatures are going to be even colder still, with wind chills to about -1 currently here in Cleveland. A lot of below zero readings right now as the sun did set about 15, 20 minutes ago. And we'll be looking at those wind chill factors getting dangerously cold once again during the overnight hours through the day on at least Wednesday. So anticipate a lot more of those wind chill factors in the dangerous between about maybe 15 to nearly 20 degrees below average as we have that cold weather advisory once again. So wind chill factors to about -15 to around -24 is a possibility during the overnight hours. We were under that extreme cold warning earlier in the day today with wind chills potentially as cold as -25 or even colder still. So thankfully not that cold during the overnight hours, but still a chance getting closer to -20, which is definitely not good news for those folks that maybe wanting to go back to work or school safely by tomorrow morning. So a lot more cold air in place during the overnight hours with those wind chills well below zero once again. And a lot of our region starting to see a bit more in the way of some relief from some of those snow showers that continue to move through. So we still have that one warning, that snow squall warning in place for Ashtabula County through about the 6:30 hour, and we'll be talking a little bit less in the way of snow for the end of this evening, but the chance is still going to be there for some isolated snowflakes between now and even the end of this week. So there's still a chance of a little bit of lake effect, believe it or not, despite Lake Erie still being mostly frozen. It's more kind of a slushy frozen rather than a rock solid ice, at least a potential frozen. So, okay. All right, sounds good. Yep, we're talking online and also talking on TV right now. We're live, going to be on News 5 at 6 very, very shortly. So we'll have our next live newscast in a little bit, but we're still looking at that snow squall warning. So we're going to be here until that warning does expire between now and about 6:30. Hopefully that squall will weaken a bit more and we'll be able to see that warning expire. But right now, just that warning continues for Ashtabula County, also into parts of Trumbull County through about 6:30 this evening. A little bit more of those at least squall-like potentials across the southern half of Ashtabula County right now. So basically, we're looking at right around the US 6 route corridor and points south towards Mecca into just north of Warren, looking to be that at least squall potential for the second half of the evening today. Outside of that, thankfully, things much, much quieter with regards to snow squall warnings, but still some snow continues for most of Geauga County through parts of greater Cleveland. just south of the at least 480 corridor towards parts of Maple Heights, Independence, Brecksville, towards Boston, and also into maybe even Hudson and parts of Twinsburg. Looking at some more snow continuing to fall across the evening hours, but does not appear to be any squall-like potential out there. So we'll be looking at a little bit more in the way of snow squall activities. We'll be getting back to TV in just a little bit, another about 30 or 40 seconds before we'll be back to the live programming on TV right now. Let's see here. Let's get my graphics set right here. Okay, so let's see here. So, yep, going to be back on TV in just a little bit. Yeah, Rob, Katie in the Digital Weather Center online, here also on TV. We're looking at a little bit more in the way of a snow squall throughout the latter half of this afternoon, early evening, but things a little bit quieter here in downtown Cleveland compared to the last half hour. Still some decent snows across our southern communities, just south of the 480 corridor towards I-80. A little bit more light to moderate snow here in most of greater Cleveland, but it's going to be a little bit more of a tricky evening with some of these squalls across the extreme eastern half of our region. Thankfully, a lot of them since expired over the last half hour, but my goodness, there was a lot of issues earlier in the evening and even into downtown Akron. So a little bit more in the way of a slushy accumulation for parts of Akron over the last half hour with that squall moving through. But the cold is going to be the biggest concern for the second half of the evening. Still one squall for about another 28, 29 minutes in through parts of Ashtabula County. Outside of that, just the cold and definitely some wind going to be the bigger concern for the second half of the overnight tonight. So we'll be anticipating more below zero wind chills, and will we see any more relief for the end of this week? We'll be talking more coming up. All right, just finished up that TV hit right now, and let's take a look at the Power 5 right now. Still looking at that squall, at least in place for the next little bit here, but I'm seeing some signs of a little bit of weakening, so definitely some good news. But also remember, the radar is centered just to the west and through parts of at least central Cuyahoga County, right at Hopkins International Airport. So a lot of the snow kind of happens very, very close to the surface. So it does take a little bit more effort to kind of pick out some of these snow squalls, especially with the radar beam going straight back up into the atmosphere. So some of the beam actually misses that squall the further east or the further south or the further west that you go. So a lot of the snow that we do see sometimes doesn't get picked up by the radar. Now, we do eventually see it, obviously, with people taking a look outside, and we will pick it up. But the radar does kind of a hard time, especially with some of these snow showers that are a bit lower in the sky. So the closer you are to the radar, the better chance of seeing the potential for some snow showers. But at least here in greater Cleveland, the snow squalls have continued to expire. But right now, a little bit more of that squall still in place for parts of Ashtabula County from about, I'd say, the US 6 route all the way down to, let's see what route we're looking at here. Let's see, what route is this? Ohio Route 5 towards Mecca, West Mecca, Bristolville, North Bristol, Ohio 45, excuse me. 322, definitely looking at some stronger snow around Mesopotamia up towards Windsor, Rome, still some snow showers falling, but even into most of Geauga County, there's some decent snow that continues to fall behind that main squall, which will pose some issues as you will be traveling late this evening. So blowing, drifting snow, a big possibility, along with some below zero wind chill factors for the rest of the evening and into the morning tomorrow as that cold weather advisory kicks back in for the second half of the overnight tonight. So a lot of cold air continues to stick around for the end of the evening through the overnight tonight. And a lot of folks definitely going to be maybe thinking of canceling classes once again tomorrow. There are definitely some schools already making that decision tonight, and I think we'll probably have another round by tomorrow morning. So a lot of that potential for more snow continues to be, at least for the evening hours, but we're not going to be talking a lot more squalls. So that is some good news. The squalls slowly starting to at least dissipate with the actual Arctic front that is pushing through right now. We do have a little bit more of a warning now just kind of outside of the Ravenna area towards parts of North Canton. We're looking at that warning now till about 6:30 for Stark County. We picked that back up again. Still some visibility issues for some of these areas towards the south. So we are looking at a little bit more, let's see, snow squall warnings around Route 30 corridor, U.S. Route 62 towards Genoa and North Canton, just south of Massillon, a little bit more of that snow squall. And that warning goes to about 6:30 once again. And that warning also accompanies the one for Ashtabula County through the second half of the 6 o'clock hour. So a little bit more in the way of snow that does continue to fall through parts of Northeast Ohio this evening. So let's take a look at if we can get any of those cameras set up here. Let's take a look. It's still safe. Let's see if I can find another camera to get another picture across. Let's see here. Okay. So 422, and let's see here. Where's my other camera up here? So, yeah, definitely some signs of a slowing down for the I-271 corridor around 422 is some of that snow squall that did continue to move through parts of the eastern half of Cuyahoga County within the last hour or so. So definitely still some issues on some of those roadways this evening. A lot of slow traffic. So if you're expecting any loved ones home for the latter half of this evening, it will take a few extra minutes for a lot of folks to get home. But there are at least some signs of improvement out there with a little bit more of those lanes being a little bit less snow covered. So some of the traffic continuing to contribute to a bit more of that snow melt, thankfully, this evening. So the more traveled the road is, better chance of seeing a little bit less in the way of tricky travel this evening, but definitely some cause for concern with some of those snow squalls that did move through within the last couple of hours. Okay, let's see here. Let's see if we can find another camera view here. Let's see if we can get another one to the south. Let's see here. Okay. So this is I-80 around State Route 8. Definitely a very snow-covered site for the second half of this evening. So a lot of that snow fell in a fairly short amount of time, causing more issues for accumulation across parts of extreme southern halves of Cuyahoga, down even into Stark County. So there will be some issues on some of those roadways late this afternoon and early evening. Let's take a look if we have any more warnings kicking back in here. Okay, let's see here. So we have another snow squall warning that has just been issued. Let's take a look. Oh, yep. We have that all the way down into Dover, New Philly, towards Carrollton as well. And that one goes through about 6:45. And let's take a look at that from the Pittsburgh radar, if we can get a little bit more of a better view from some of the eastern half of Ohio right now. So still the radar, we're kind of in the middle of no man's land between those radars, especially from Pittsburgh being in the central half of the city and greater Cleveland. So we're kind of looking at a lot of that snow in between parts of those radars, excuse me, for the evening hours, but we still have a lot more of the snow squall warnings, which will continue to move in for the latter half of this evening. So those warnings are now in place for parts of Stark County, up towards Trumbull, and also into Portage County through about 6:30 this evening. And we have a couple more of those warnings now in place for Tuscarawas County and Carroll County through about 6:45. So definitely some issues with still this line of snow, which continues to be a little bit more concerning for the end of the evening hours right now. And let's take a look at some of the potential snow showers for the end of the evening, but that is going to be at least mostly out of here by the second half of the evening. So let's take a look at our current model runs And as we get closer to about 9, 10 o'clock tonight, things begin to quiet down. But temperatures will continue to plummet for the evening hours through the day tomorrow. So definitely a lot more in the way of cold air right behind most of this squall. So we have that cold front that is continuing to march through right now. Let's take a look at the actual main front, which is continuing to move into Pennsylvania right now. So the main snow squall a little bit behind the actual main front. And that will be the concern for the time being. These squalls will drop visibilities to about a mile or less and causing more concern with maybe some inch to maybe inch and a half snow, at least accumulations for the evening hours across parts of our eastern communities between about Cleveland and the Pennsylvania border. But once we get past all of that, a lot more quiet and just downright cold air will slowly continue to stick around for the foreseeable future. So right now, those at least temperatures being the main concern for most locations. As we do get into the second half of the evening hours, we're looking at some teens from Cleveland down towards Akron and Canton, some mid-teens around Dover, New Philly, and even some lower teens right now in Sandusky. So numbers continue to go down for the second half of the evening, and you factor in a little bit more of those wind chill factors, and it's not going to be pretty at all. About -8 with wind chill now in Medina, about -6 in parts of Worcester, about -3 in Akron, and -4 right now around downtown Canton. So definitely some colder air filtering back in for the overnight hours, but the snow squalls will continue to be moving out of here for the latter half of this evening. So we still have a couple more warnings in place for parts of our viewing area. Let's take a look at the Cleveland radar once again. And looking at still some snow showers for parts of greater Cleveland, northern parts of Summit County, I-80 into parts of Manaway towards Hiram, Mahoning, Parkman, Burton Lake. Burton definitely seeing some snow showers out there, and more of that snow is going to continue for the end of this evening. And we will be talking at least maybe another inch or two before all said and done for the second half of the evening and beyond. So a lot of that snow will continue to stick around, but not nearly as much as far as squalls right behind the main line. So the main focus is going to be the eastern half of parts of Portage County down towards Stark County between now and about 6:30, as well as into parts of Trumbull and Ashtabula County. And that squall will continue to move further eastward. So we still have that warning now in place for Tuscarawas County and Carroll County till about 6:45, so another half hour before that does expire. So we'll be talking still some visibility issues, a little bit of concern with some accumulation from some of these snow squalls, but definitely the leftovers across parts of Northeast Ohio will continue to be the case. I-76 and State Route 43 in Portage County looking a little bit better. We're not looking as bad across northern Portage County, but definitely a potential of some snow showers causing a few more concerns for the second half of the evening. Downtown Cleveland, not too much snow in the way, but some cold air will be with us once again. So a lot of that cold will continue to stick around this evening. And once we get through the main fronts throughout the next couple of hours, high pressure kind of builds back in with a little bit more of that Arctic air. And we're not going to be talking anything, at least maybe even close to 20 until sometime Saturday, Sunday, maybe into Monday at the very, very earliest. So a lot of that cold and definitely Arctic air sticking around for the foreseeable future. Low temps tonight, at least below zero for many locations. And we'll be talking wind chills between about 15, maybe 20 below zero, a possibility with some of those wind chills factored in through about 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning as that cold Arctic air continues to spill back in. So all of these numbers really looking at well below 15 degrees from Cleveland, points north and west by about 10 degrees. Parts of central Michigan, Detroit at 12. We're already into the single digits in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and more of that cold Arctic air sticks around for the end of this week. And we'll be talking another storm that kind of forms along the eastern seaboard, and that's going to induce a little bit more snow across the eastern half of the country, not influencing a lot of our weather with snow necessarily, but that potential for more Arctic air will spill back in with that low tracking along the eastern seaboard. So these temperatures will be even colder, I think, by the end of this week. So a little bit more of the 7-day forecast A couple more snowflakes between now and Thursday, but look at that, 8 degrees for a high on Friday, 12 back into the weekend, 15 on Sunday, and hopefully keeping the fingers crossed it's going to be a heat wave by Monday and Tuesday with more of those 20s returning back to Northeast Ohio to start off next week. So between now and then, a lot more of that cold Arctic air going to be in place once again. So numbers are starting to at least drop a little bit towards the western half of our region, but still some decent snow squall activity for the eastern third of our viewing area for parts of at least Stark County and also into now parts of Ashtabula County, especially the further south of US 6, looking at a little bit more of that snow around Rome towards Clover Hill, Mesopotamia, Green, a little bit more of that snow even into Burton, Chardon, a little bit more snow around the Ohio 44 route, definitely a little bit more widespread snow. And some of this will be accumulating, so anticipate more of a slow go this evening with more of these potential snow showers for the second half of the evening hours. And we still have that snow squall warning for parts of at least Ashtabula County and Trumbull until about 6:30. On the further south parts of Stark County till about 6:30, quarter to 7 across our eastern communities of Carrollton and also into Tuscarawas County. So still some snow squall warnings are in place, but the further west you go, the better chance of just seeing some general snow. Most of the squall activity pushing well to the east. So that's some good news for most folks across the western half of our region. But still some snow showers continuing to fall from about, I'd say, I-80 and points north along at least Hudson towards Strongsville. And we will be looking at some snow showers for at least the next couple of hours with some light accumulation of possibility. Now, we're simulcasting. I'm in the Digital Weather Center right now here at News 5, so we will be back to TV in a couple minutes, so we will have to take a little bit more of a short break between now and a little bit after the 20 after portion of the 6 o'clock hour to get back on TV. But we do have streaming continuing, so you can kind of see some of the behind-the-scenes, at least things that we do here at News 5. So we do have streaming going on with our Facebook live feed, also YouTube, and we're also on TV live as well for our 6 o'clock newscast. So I do have to get ready for that in just a little bit here. So we're looking at, let's see here. Let's throw a few graphics together as we can look at our radar. Let's see. No, I'm going to put that back there. Okay, so that looks good there. And let's get rid of that one there. Okay. And then we can go that route. Okay, so we can look up. So we still have that snow squall warning for parts of Ashtabula and Trumbull County through about 6:30 there. Okay, so about 45 more seconds till we're back on TV. So we'll be back in just a little bit to streaming after we get through our live TV hit during our news at 6 o'clock. So bear with me. We'll be back in just a few seconds. So I catch my voice here. I've been talking for a little bit now. Okie dokie. Okay, about 20 more seconds till we're back to TV here. About 10 seconds. Hey, Rob, Katie, I'm here in the Digital Weather Center of News 5, and boy, hopefully a lot of folks enjoying some of the warm and cozy indoor activities because Mother Nature has been throwing lots and lots of snow at us, and we still have a lot more of those snow squall warnings. Let's take a look at the Power 5 right now. Still a warning in place till about 6:30 for Ashtabula County, just south of the US 6 route corridor, kind of the main concern. So those areas around Ashtabula towards Jefferson, a little bit quieter of an evening. Still some snow showers a possibility, but the main squall is certainly moving into southern parts of Ashtabula towards Mesopotamia in parts of Trumbull County. And we also have a couple new warnings to pass along for parts of Stark, Tuscarawas, and Carroll County as this line continues to stick around for at least the next half hour or so. So between about 6:30 and 6:45, most of these warnings will be at least expiring with still some light snow showers, but the cold, my goodness, has not gone away anytime soon. We're at 14 degrees here in Cleveland, 13 around Akron, 12 in Worcester, at 11 this evening in Mansfield. The winds still well over 10 to 15 miles an hour, even close to 20. And temps, they are struggling once again. Lower and middle teens late this evening, and it's going to be even colder still with these winds well over 10 to 15, even over 20 miles per hour in our western communities. And these wind chill factors, they're not going to get any better. 8 degrees below zero in Medina, 5 degrees below zero now in Elyria towards Ashland and Mansfield. And we'll be talking even more well below zero wind chill factors with that cold weather advisory between 7 p.m. and 11 a.m. tomorrow morning for wind chills about 10 to 15, if not close to 20 below zero at times during the second half of this evening. So thankfully not nearly as cold as this morning, but still a definite force to be reckoned with maybe 20 to 22 below at times in a couple locations, especially around that I-71 corridor towards parts of Mansfield. And then things gradually get a little bit better during the day tomorrow, about 5, 6, 7 degrees below zero potential, maybe a few double digits throughout the second half of the day tomorrow, but still brutally cold air sticks around for the foreseeable future. So teens slipping back into those single digits during the second half of this evening, and we're still looking at below zero readings, a possibility for the overnight hours, and that's going to cause more concern with those wind chills well below zero to begin the day tomorrow. So thankfully, we'll start to see a little bit of improvements for the winds, at least for the day tomorrow. But temperatures still well below average, a lot of teens and even single digits towards the north and west behind that Arctic front. So don't anticipate anything warmer than about maybe 15, 16 degrees for the afternoon tomorrow. And still looking at maybe some single digits for those daytime highs towards the end of this week. So we'll be going from about 14, 15 by Wednesday, Thursday, to maybe only about 8 on Friday. Still some isolated snow shower potential between now and the weekend, and maybe a few more snowflakes Monday and Tuesday. Back with more after this. All right, I just finished up that weather there on News 5 at 6. And looking at a little bit more of that snow squall activity still sticking around. Parts of the viewing area, it's the little squall that could, unfortunately. A lot of these snow showers continuing to stick around this evening. And we still have a few of those warnings in place for at least the next, I'd say, 10 minutes or so for parts of Ashtabula County and also through Stark County. But Carroll County into Tuscarawas County at least until 6:45 p.m. So another, I'd say 20 minutes or so before a lot of that does begin to quiet down as this system continues to move through. We'll be talking some light accumulation around an inch, but the visibility is going to be the bigger concern. We've seen a lot of those issues over the last couple of hours from west to east. So once that squall did move in, unfortunately at the wrong time with a lot of the rush hour in place, and that did not bode well for travelers for the second half of the day today. So right now, snow squall activity confined to the eastern half of our viewing area, but we're not done with some of this snow. I-80 around Brecksville towards Brunswick, Richfield into parts of northern Summit County, Sagamore Hills, Northfield, Brandywine, Twinsburg. Still some light to moderate snow. Some visibility concerns, a possibility with some of this light to moderate snow, but the winds ahead of the main line continue to remain a little bit stronger in the extreme eastern half of our region. So at least the squalls for the moment confined to the extreme eastern half of Ohio right now, but still some concern all the way from Ashtabula down towards Youngstown into Carroll County through the second half of the evening. So a lot of this squall activity continuing to be in place between now and about 6:45 at the very latest, especially the further south into parts of Carroll and Tuscarawas County this evening. And still looking at some more of those snow showers for parts of Geauga, Summit, even into northern Medina County, and points westward right now. So a little bit more time before these warnings do go into at least start to expire, for the 6:30 and 6:45 time frame from Ashtabula down towards parts of Canton. But we're definitely going to stay on here for the latter half of the evening hours, make sure everything's looking okay with some of these snow squalls. But right now, a lot more of these squalls will continue for at least the next little bit. Let's see if we can find another camera here. Let's see here. So, yep. State routes. Let's see, what number do I have here? Let's go back up to. So this is a look at State Route 8 and I-80, and certainly some issues on some of those roadways. Traffic is moving at a slower pace, but definitely some snow continues to at least stick around for the latter half of the evening around the I-80 and State Route 8 corridor. And let's take a look if we can find another one here. This is State Route 176, around 71, a little bit better off. So the snow wasn't nearly as intense as far as accumulation towards the extreme northern half of Cuyahoga County. And let's see here. Let's see where else we can find a camera right now. And so this is 271 at Cedar Road. Still some issues. A few of those lanes are a little bit more accumulated rather than at least a bare roadway, but definitely some slowdowns on 271 if you're heading around the Cedar Road exit, as some of those squalls produce some decent accumulations. And let's take a look at State Route 86. And let's see here, I-90, not looking too bad. A lot of the roadways in Lake County going as normal. So the Lake County region, especially into parts of Ashtabula County north, not looking as bad with some of these snow squalls that continue over the next few hours. So State Route 8 and 303, you can definitely tell some roadways causing a bit more of an issue on some of those southerly winds that do kick up over the next few hours, causing some rolling and drifting snow along with those snow squalls that did move through. So let's take a look at our snow squall warnings. Still in place for the next 5 or so minutes for Ashtabula County, and also into Stark County and Portage County, but we still have that warning towards Carroll County until about 6:45 this evening. So still some snow squalls possibility for the next 5 or so minutes in parts of the News 5 Union, especially around Stark and Ashtabula County, but it's going to get a little bit better off the further west of the at least I-77 corridor with still some snow showers. But right now, we got some new warnings into Pennsylvania. So this line continues to stick around, and it remains a little bit more intense the further east through parts of the eastern half of Ohio into Pennsylvania right now. So let's see here if this warning does expire, which we're hoping it will in the next few minutes. And then we'll be looking at a little bit more, maybe light to moderate snow for the second half of the evening before a lot of that does begin to fade out. But still a decent amount of at least concern for some of those rolling and drifting snows on some of the roadways between now and the end of the evening, as those winds still remain pretty strong, about 15 to 20 miles an hour sustained. And a lot of this snow is very light and very fluffy, and it's not going to take much to move a lot of that snow fairly quickly. So a lot of these squalls causing concern for visibility, and we might still be talking some visibility issues as well for the second half of the evening with some of these at least blowing and drifting snow scenarios across northeast Ohio that's already seen some snow showers for the second half of the overnight tonight. So a lot of the snow moving quite rapidly over the last few hours. We started off at around 4:45, 4:30 with a lot of that intense snow in through parts of western Cuyahoga County. And then that continued to move through, and definitely a big squall line of snow showers, so to speak. So if this were the middle of summer, we'd be talking some dangerous winds, but a lot of the snow is fairly light and fairly compact. So it's not going to really accumulate a lot necessarily, but the visibility has been the bigger issue with these snow squalls, and that's what squalls are, more of a visibility issue. Some accumulation is a possibility as they do continue to move through, but a lot of it will continue to push into Pennsylvania during the latter half of the 6 o'clock hour, and we'll be talking a little bit less in the way of issues from snow squalls for the second half of the evening. So we still have a couple more minutes on that warning from Ashtabula, Trumbull County into Stark County right now, even into northern Tuscarawas County. Still a little bit of concern out there at the moment, but we'll definitely be looking at less and less of that snow between now and about midnight tonight. And once we get into the second half of the overnight, wind chills will be dropping precipitously. A lot of below zero readings already at the bottom of the 6 o'clock hour. We might be talking 20 below zero from some areas for the second half of the overnight tonight through the day tomorrow as well. So a lot of concern for big wind chill factors during the next half of the evening hours through the day tomorrow. But we will be at least looking at a lot of the, yep, there they go. We're starting to see a little bit more in the way of snow moving further out of Stark County right now. Still those warnings for another minute or so. We'll take a look at the Power 5, making sure we don't see too much more to worry about for the rest of the evening hours. But here in Greater Cleveland, things looking much better right now. Still some snow showers to the south, even in two parts of I-271. The 480 corridor around Burton, Chardon, still some light to moderate snow falling. Parkman, even into Manaway, Ravenna, and snow showers starting to move out of parts of Stark County, just south of downtown Canton. That warning still in place for the next couple of minutes, so we'll hopefully see a at least lapse in that for the latter half of the evening hours. And let's see here. Let's see if there's any more warnings that'll be issued here. Okay. And the good news is I don't see many more warning potentials. We still have another minute up. All right, so that is the good news. All those warnings for Ashtabula, Trumbull, parts of Stark County have since expired. We still have a little bit of time before the extreme southern half of our viewing area is no longer under that snow squall warning, but we are looking at some improvement with some of these warnings right now. That is the good news, but still that potential for a few more snow squalls just to the south of Route 30 along parts of Tuscarawas County and Carroll County right now into the News 5 viewing area. But we do have to get to a little bit of business to get ready for our 7 o'clock newscast. So we'll be looking at some updates coming up in the next half hour during the 7 o'clock newscast this evening. So right now, there are only a couple warnings in place for our extreme southern communities of parts of Tuscarawas County, north of Dover, New Philly, and looking at Carroll County under that warning as well. If we have any more issues or warnings to pass along, we'll jump back on during the next half hour, 45 minutes after our 7 o'clock newscast. We'll have to prep for that right now, so we'll get back to you a little bit later in the evening. Until then, stay safe and stay warm.